How to actually stop your overthinking. Why haven't they responded to my text? What did I say wrong? They might be upset about something. Last time, I did make that joke. They don't like it? I should really get ready. What's wrong with my back? This could be a health issue. Or from my gym time? What do I put on? Damn, I'm thinking too much. This morning, I should have meditated. No wonder I have so much on my mind. Overthinking, rumination, or whatever you want to call it, is the act of thinking about a situation over and over and over again in a very nonsensical way. With facts that make sense about the problem we're thinking about too much. And it just keeps you thinking too much. And then you don't pay attention to these other parts of your life because you're too busy overthinking. Overthinking can be a way to try to keep things under control and feel more sure about what to do next. Your brain tries to calm you down by going over different possible situations and trying to figure out what will happen. And this happens a lot to type A personalities, perfectionists, and high workers. If you have high standards for yourself, you might start to think too much about the things you do. I should do it because people who are successful do it. Your mind starts to get cloudy from all this overthinking, and it starts to bother you. And then you just start living in a state of overthinking all the time. If your brain is always going 100 miles per hour, it's hard to enjoy life. I'd like to give some examples of how I've overthought things in the past. I don't want these people to feel scared or anything like that when they play sports. I like to win. So, if you feel scared, you feel scared. I finally figured out why I was doing it, and I kind of stopped doing it. Why should I care that he feels insecure because I seem so sure of myself? He has to do something with that. I'm showing him something he needs to work on. When I realized this, I started to wonder where else in my life I overthink, especially when it comes to other people's opinions but also when it comes to the steps I need to take. Now, I don't want to say I never overthink, but when I do, I catch myself very quickly. I know a lot more about how the mind works now. And B meditation just fixes the situation. Start accepting the unknown. I've already talked about type A people, type A personalities, high achievers, and people with high standards for themselves. At any given time, a lot of things can happen. To be comfortable with the unknown, you need to start planning your day less. Do things that are different, that are new, and that push you. You'll start to get used to the unknown and feel a little bit more at ease with it. Next, lessen your need for results and rely less on them. And by spiritually detached, I mean being spiritually separate from things and events and being spiritually separate from what you want. I know it seems like a contradiction because you want this to happen, but you're also fine with it not happening and are mentally ready for it not to happen. In fact, when we want to get to a certain point in our lives, we're often willing to let go of it. So, it won't take over our lives at all. Next, learn to love making mistakes and failing. We can learn a lot from what doesn't work. I mean, I'm sure there are things you failed at in the past that you're glad you did because they helped you become the person you are now. Failure makes you stronger. Building up your character is everything. People in today's culture aren't growing because they don't fail. So they're stuck because of that. But when you learn to accept loss, you grow like crazy. If I didn't learn from my mistakes, I wouldn't have this YouTube account. If I didn't accept losses, I wouldn't have my business. Also, loss makes you more humble and helps you keep your ego in check. This is the best way to do it. Also, when you fail, you appreciate victory even more. Because we've been through the opposite, we can value one thing more. 5 years ago, if you had told me to sit down and talk to a camera about psychology, I would have said, give me a month. I've done it so many times that it's like second nature now, right? I've had videos I didn't like, so I didn't share them, and I never did. But in the end, I don't think about it as much because I'm okay with failing at things. The next step is to figure out what sets you off. I think too much because of stress and worry. My next question would be what that has to do with ego. But he hates the thought of being late to the basketball game because he thinks he's a great dad. He's there for his kids all the time. That's who he is. So when he's late, he feels bad about it and thinks about it a lot. Let's say that someone is thinking too much about a softball game. They're getting ready to play. They're afraid of making a mistake. They think, oh, I don't want to mess up too much. Well, they're giving it too much thought because they see themselves as good athletes. I'm a great runner, for example. As if I never make mistakes. So they come in with fear because they're so attached to that identity, and they're trying to fight the other side, the fact that they could just have a bad game that night. But it's funny because, counterintuitively, if they're okay with having a bad game that night, they'll probably have a better game because they're not fighting it. So they don't spend too much time thinking. They are only having fun. You have to figure out how much your overthinking has to do with your ego. Even people who do a lot should still take time to rest. In fact, forget about being a high achiever. I do very well at things. Next, change how you look at it. So you're changing how you look at overthinking. No matter who you are, life has different parts. That means you won't always have that identity 100% of the time. So, someone who is the head of a company, for example, when they are at work, they are the CEOs of the company. They sometimes have to go to the doctor. Take care of their family, perhaps. Maybe there's a leak in the house that needs fixing. But we take on these identities as if they were facts, like, I'm a CEO, or, I'm just this person. But everyone has different things they do in life. Let's say that this person is trying to learn karate. When they do karate, they learn. It feels different. So, life has subtleties. There are many things happening. And when we think too much, it's because we're connected to a part of ourselves that we should let go of. Is that right? Maybe you're not the best at some things in life, and that's okay. Next, meditate on how you feel. I'm sure a lot of people do this, but I call it feeling meditation because I like the sound of it. This is when you feel how overthinking has made you feel. This is how the body and mind work. When you feel something about a thought, it becomes more important. The body pays more attention to it. But when we meditate, we close our eyes and just pay attention to how we feel and what things come to mind. We don't look down on ourselves. All we can do is feel it and watch it. The funny thing is that it starts to slow down. As soon as you do this, it starts to slow down and get quieter. The mind just calms down, and I suggest that you try a guided meditation. What are binaural beats? I suggest that you try alpha binaural beats. Because when you think too much, your brain waves move very quickly. That's when we're thinking about something, talking about it, doing something, or doing something of some kind. But there are also slower brainwaves called alpha waves. And in alpha, this is often when a person is meditating. Most of the time, this is when you're calm and such. In fact, when you're in alpha, you can see things in a more reasonable way. Because your mind has less noise. I really think you should try meditation because it slows down your brainwaves and makes you more open. Next, stop making things worse than they are. I'm sure that about a month ago, you made a big deal out of something that you thought was going to happen but didn't. Now, the next thing that could happen is that it really does happen. You know what will happen when the thing you think about too much actually happens, right? It probably won't be as bad as you think it will be. You'll get used to it. You will get used to it, and it will become your new normal. For instance, if someone thinks they have a muscle injury but is overthinking it, they might go to the hospital and find out that they actually tore something. It's bad. That, worry is there. But what happens next is that they feel bad about it for maybe an hour. Maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5, maybe a day, maybe 2 days. But then they start to think, okay, I have this torn muscle. Maybe I'm going to need surgery. Maybe I won't have to have surgery. I might just need to take a break. Anyway, the point is that it becomes your new normal, and now that you're used to it, things can start to get better. From there, things can get better right away. This is how you should think about it. Even if the worst case scenario happens, which it probably won't, but let's say it does, things will get better. You need to have faith in yourself in terms of your ability to bounce back from things and process them. If you're religious or something like that and you feel like you have faith in a higher power, that's great. So, This is a very important thing to keep in mind when thinking about the worst-case scenario. They don't happen very often, but when they do, you know things will get better. You can stop and say, "I'm thinking too much." And now, don't be hard on yourself for thinking too much. That's another way to handle this. Think less. Don't be so hard on yourself. Reduce how you judge others. You will be very happy. Believe me. When you judge less, you don't have as many neurotic and emotional ideas and projections. Many of the things we think about are bad. We make decisions about ourselves. This is what I should have done. Stop being so harsh. You have to be careful. You should watch what you say. A lot of people don't pay attention to what they say. We just think that words are strings of letters put together, and that's how we talk. Words mean things. Words have sounds. Words have power. When people say certain things about something, it changes in a clear way. But if words can change living things that aren't people, you can bet they can change people. It can change how you think. It can mess with the way you feel. So many things about you can change because of it. That's a big deal. Next, talk to people. A lot of the time, we try to figure out what people are thinking and why they do what they do. And they talk to each other. If you want to know why, you can ask them or the person. Ask the person what they were thinking. Communication tells us what's going on. So, when we don't know something, it's very important to talk to the other person about it. You can also talk to yourself, which is pretty cool. This is like asking yourself questions. If you think too much, go back, 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 back. And yes, talking to yourself is fine. You should also talk out loud to yourself. You're sending a message. Maybe even keep a diary. Just write down all your thoughts and then, let it all out. Part of you feels better when you say it. It's not enough to talk to other people when you don't know what to do in a certain situation. You are having a conversation with yourself. And now you have this beautiful self-integration that comes from being so in tune with yourself. You really know yourself. No one can really tell you anything about yourself that you don't already know. It makes no difference. When you convince yourself that it doesn't matter what happens, good things will happen. It doesn't matter what you're thinking about too much. Life is like a show. And all of us are just here to see it. Thanks for watching.